Hello, Data Standard community. I'm your host, Shana Walden, and today on the Data Standard audio experience, we have Shalini Agarwal, a Senior Director of Engineering at LinkedIn. She's an engineer and product leader with 15 plus years of experience building software for web, mobile, and enterprises. She's extremely passionate about motivating teams, bringing innovation, and building scalable products that delight customers. This is quite an impressive list, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shana, for having me. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you today.
I'm so excited too. Thank you so much for being here again. To start off, please just go ahead and introduce yourself.
Definitely. So I started my journey by studying computer science, first in India and then in US. And I spent initial years of my career in startups where I built web experiences. This was the dot-com era, just dating myself a bit there. And after that, I joined a large company, eBay. And it was at eBay that I got introduced to the world of data. I worked on products like recommendations. You probably have seen it on shopping websites. People who buy this also buy that. Or people are also viewing these other products, so buy them quickly. So those kind of algorithms back in the background are the ones that I worked on. And during this time, I learned and applied the concepts of capturing user behavior on the site and then using that information to improve the experience on the other end by using machine learning, personalizing the content. And what we found as we made this change, we were seeing our results improve and also grow the business. I continued this journey at LinkedIn, and I have managed data applications team that were horizontal teams that were helping all products at LinkedIn, like tracking of the data, experimentation platform, data visualization. And I'm currently leading an engineering team that builds sales intelligence software called Sales Navigator. And as the name suggests, the product delivers insights to sales professionals, making them more efficient in their day-to-day work.
Wow, that is amazing. I also do use Sales Navigator. So thank you. So what exactly do you do as a senior director at LinkedIn? Can you please go more in depth than that?
Sure. So as a senior director, as a leader for the company, I have multiple facets of my job. So I'm not only responsible for the success of my team or the product area, but also the cross-functional health of everyone that's involved in making it a success. So let's take a look closely. So my team is not just my direct reports. It's also the partners in product area, the data science, the business operations, the marketing, the customer service, everyone that is involved in making the product, whether it is inception or delivery, it's all part of my team. And I need to, as a leader, make sure everybody is in lockstep in making sure we steer the ship and deliver results. Sometimes it may mean having more conversations, mentoring different people at different parts of the ecosystem, and creating those rhythms of business where we are keeping in sync and having those updates or solving problems together to accomplish a common goal. This is part of my ecosystem team. Also, specifically on the engineering side, given I'm an engineering leader, my job is to also make sure that we're building the right software. At LinkedIn, we call it craftsmanship, with the right level of craftsmanship. That is, the software that we built is not only delivering the feature, but it is both maintainable, scalable, and is robust for unforeseen things that we may not have planned for yet. So as we deliver the product features, we need to balance our investments in technology foundations as well. And at an organizational level, my job also involves helping the organization for talent development, including like coaching new managers, reviewing promotion readiness, and so on and so forth. In addition, I also lead an apprenticeship program called Reach at LinkedIn, which is about opening up opportunity for anyone that wants to become a software engineer. And we look for folks that have a non-linear pathways to learning and becoming software enthusiast, and then want to have a career in engineering. How do we help them find that soft landing to do that? So that's a passion of mine that I do along with my day job of leading the software for Sales Navigator.
Wow. As I listen to this, I'm even more impressed, and you have such an array of experience. How did you first become involved in this field in data analytics?
Well, like I mentioned, my work started with data when I was at eBay. As you know, eBay has millions of users and they come to the site. All web companies track activities of their users that they're doing. And it's not just so much to stalk them, but also to improve their experience as they use the site, and how can we make it more efficient for the users that are coming to the site. So a while back, a few years ago, multiple years ago, actually, the data was stored in expensive data warehouse. And I remember we used to use SQL queries to analyze the click data, like click-through rates, etc. And because it was so expensive, we actually did not store all of member data, but only a percentage of it for analytics purposes. And this was before Hadoop was created or even became popular. But as we evolved from there, the recommendation system started very simple in early days. It was based on heuristics or rules-based, and these rules were configured in a system or were based on user preferences. And slowly we started adding machine learning to various algorithms and modules, and it became more sophisticated. Now it involves standardization, tracking of the data, creating data pipelines to filter and transform that data, and then applying models and training those AI models on top of it. And that made the results available to the online systems. So there are multiple challenges in terms of both making that data available and then also scaling it on the online system. So from a end user perspective, you do not see a lot of delay. You still see those results very quickly. So all the heavy lifting is done offline, and the online web experiences are able to create those experiences in a very fast way.
Wow, we've come a long way with this data processing and holding. So in industry, we need more people processing data to make data systems more efficient and reliable. How can we remove repetitive tasks and automate the quality of this data?
Like you said, there's a lot happening in our industry and lots of data needs to be processed. What has happened as we have evolved, and again, the data processing part of it is still very nascent, and we end up doing the same things again and again. If you look at the evolution of the software itself, we have been doing software engineering for multiple decades, but the data engineering is only no more than like a decade or so old, or hasn't matured enough yet. So let's just compare with the online systems. We do automation, we do testing. There are mature systems like Jenkins or test-driven development. So we write unit tests, scenario test, end-to-end test, load test, and all of that make the software more robust. So you don't have to do the same thing again and again. We do configuration and other things. A lot of those best practices have been adopted for the offline or the data processing side of the world, but there's still a lot more to do. And those systems are still very much in early stages of maturity. I still remember like one of the biggest challenges with data pipelines in offline world is pipeline fails. Could be a system error. Very often it is a quota issue that I have reached my quota for processing the data because I have much larger data than I had anticipated when I did my capacity planning. Those kind of issues need to be monitored so that there's less repetitive in terms of investigations. And how can we have those systems automated in a way where not just the monitoring of whether or not the pipeline succeeded, but also how do we have those SLAs or those service level agreement that I will have fresh data every day or every few hours, whatever those SLAs that we create, how do we create those monitoring and alerting around those ecosystems? So as an individual, as a data processing engineer, I do not have to babysit my pipeline every day. Mm-hmm. And those systems are very much homegrown, both at LinkedIn and at other places. And a lot of these things are getting standardized over a period of time. But those are kind of best practices of software engineering that we can bring to the offline ecosystem that we have optimized and matured on the online as well.
Wow. Okay. How do you track data? And then what are some types of data products that can help sales professionals succeed at their jobs?
So tracking data and consuming data, like you said, creating the insights product, it's all a team collaboration. Software engineering is seen as like an individual work. No, but creating products, especially creating large products that have both insights and data in it, it's a large team collaboration problem. And there are multiple facets of the problem that we should need to look at. Like the big part of the problem is understanding the meaning of the tracking events that are produced. But a more important one is the right data and the event is getting fired or created at the right time. As we look at this in a meaningful way, let's take sales professionals as an example, like you were asking. So my team works on helping them find leads and create meaningful relationship that could lead to good business success. So, and as we do that, we optimize searching of the member graph based on various facets like company size, company growth, geography, region, etc. And as we closely look at these facets, they're all based on data created by different parts of the LinkedIn ecosystem. And these insights that we create on top are based on machine learning algorithm that optimizes for search results. So here is like a full feedback loop where we created the data and then we are optimizing for the user benefit. In addition, what we also do is provide notification. For example, when a lead changes job and is no longer in their previous company, it provides the notification to the sales professional in terms of taking an action based on that. It shows their interests, also shows things like, did the company get a new funding round? That means they're open for more business. And all these signals help then sales professionals build meaningful relationships with their buyers.
This is so great to hear the background, like behind the scenes of what's going on in the Sales Navigator. How do you ensure the interface between producers and consumers is filled with accurate data? And then what about the gap between creating and using data?
So that's a very interesting problem and a very, really good question, because in the world of software, it is always evolving. We are always writing new things on both ends. As a producer of data, which is the application writer, I am evolving my application to do more things. And that means I'm changing my software to do new things. And that means my tracking of the data needs to evolve. On the consumer side, which is like my data science folks or my AI folks, they're consuming that data using software. And that software is also evolving because they want to make it better, more efficient, and do more things with that data. And as these two parts of the ecosystem are evolving, how do you keep them that's in sync? And that is a very hard problem, because as I'm evolving my software, say I'm writing software for web application, and then I introduced a mobile application, I need to make sure that the consumer part of the ecosystem is aware of those changes. Let's take an example. So let's say I am producing events for a job, and I'm calling it all lowercase job ID in my web application. But as I wrote my mobile application, for whatever reason, I called it all caps job ID. Now, as a consumer of that data, I'm going to be looking at lowercase job ID if I'm really tightly coupled with the producer of the data. And as the mobile application gets introduced, I need to change all my scripts, all my data processing pipelines to now also look for the caps job ID. Instead, if I create a layer of indirection or interface layer in middle, where all job ID events get translated into a common way, I can create that layer of separation between my consumers and my producers. So the producers can continue to produce new kinds of events with different ID names. And as a consumer, I can continue to have more scripts based on that generic logical representation of that event instead of changing all my scripts every time something changes on the producer side. So that helps maintain the system long-term, even though there's a little bit of investment needed from both ends to create this abstraction layer.
I got that. Thanks for the clear example. And before you mentioned machine learning algorithms, how can AI and ML help companies, or specifically LinkedIn, to process data in a scalable way?
Well, as technology is evolving, we are creating enormous amounts of data every day, every second. And it's humanly not possible to digest all of that data and translate that into information or even insights without machines. The machines can not only look at like 5, 10, or 20 features, but hundreds of them at the same time and optimize for outcomes. There are lots of out-of-box solutions, but companies like LinkedIn have their own internally created platforms and systems to create those machine learning platforms. And I would suggest any company that is looking to expand and grow and become smart in what they're doing, whether it is small things like just site speed of a web page, you need machine learning to process your data because there's a huge amount of data that you produce. And as you process that data, whether it is out of the box solutions or your homegrown, you need those capabilities to make your systems more efficient. Well, AI and ML is the only way to scale as we look at our data.
Okay. So we just touched on data efficiency, but you have so much background in leadership and team management. Let's go into this real quick. How do you personally set up teams for success?
That's a very interesting question, and there is no one size fits all. Let me start with that. You can actually think of teams as both vertical teams where you're solving different problems, or horizontal teams that are solving one kind of problem. However, based on the maturity of the ecosystem or the teams and the product that you're working on, you may choose one over the other or a combination of both. So let's take examples around this. What you really want for the team to have clear accountability on outcomes and success, and have a clear alignment with their product partners. Because at the end of the day, the product manager and the eng manager need to have a cohesive relationship for aligned goals and outcomes. So say if it is a team that is focused on improving user experiences, you want to make sure your team across user experience is cohesive. You don't want teams that are doing end-to-end, but having different parts of your site as user experience in different parts of your organizational structure. Because what will happen is over a period of time, your site will start looking like your organization structure itself. And you don't want that to happen because from an end user perspective, it's a single site. So you may want to think about how do you create those user experiences in a cohesive way by having a single leader responsible for creating that cohesive experience. Alternately, like say, I was talking about recommendation systems. It's not a user experience problem only. It's also a backend and a data problem. And for that, you may, depending on how big you are, you may want to create a vertical team that is just focused on that problem end to end, and then partners with your user experience team for the different pages and the workflow of the ecosystem. So again, it's all about what is it that you want to optimize for? What is the problem that you're looking at? And how mature is the product or the organization that you are organizing? At the end of the day, what you really want to optimize for is clear accountability on outcomes and success.
Okay, I love that. Accountability, outcomes, and success. We at the Data Standard are building a community of data enthusiasts and data thought leaders. Everyone here is open for collaboration and to connect with one another. And so what can our community do for you?
Well, it's great to have a great community on Data Standard coming together to have these podcasts. Only thing I would suggest is on LinkedIn, there's this feature called LinkedIn Groups. If you don't have one, I would encourage you to create one so you could actually use that as a platform to both share ideas, ask questions, and have your community help each other answering them and learning from each other as well.
That's great. I love that. Okay, so just to get clear, it's called LinkedIn Groups.
That's right.
Okay, amazing. Also, where can our audience find you?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. If you just put Shalini Agarwal, LinkedIn, you can find me there.
Okay, sounds great. And for more information on the Data Standard, you can reach us at www.datastandard.io. This episode was sponsored by Pandio, and they're innovating the tech space, and you can learn more about their work at pandio.com. But once again, thank you so much for joining us and for giving us your insight. It was truly a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you, Shana, for the opportunity. I really loved talking to you and sharing my experience with all of you guys.
Oh, we loved hearing it. Thanks.
Thank you.